Hey, aloha, John. It's Kamana.
Hey, come on up.
Morning.
How's it?
Yeah,
Morning.
good to see you. I'm probably gonna keep my camera off because I'm kind of in transit right now.
Okay,
Um,
no
I'm
problem.
on listening.
Okay,
Thank you.
I got you. I see you. Mahal. Well, I see your thing. I see it. Anyway, Mahal.
Yeah, the big K
Yeah,
is
yeah,
just
yeah,
pretend.
yeah.
Oh, by the way, Kalehu and Lanakila are coming, but they're gonna be a little bit late, both of them.
Okay. So waiting for one more, and then we can start.
Hey John, just a note, a quorum of board members have to be visible, yeah, for remote hearings, for purposes of sunshine.
For the whole hearing, I mean, for the whole,
Yeah, a quorum of them at least.
right.
Okay, are we waiting on someone else for quorum, or if I turn on my camera, we have quorum then?
No, we still don't, we
Okay,
still short one, we still short one, even if you're not on.
okay, okay, okay. I'll try to fix it, and I'll. You guys might just get weird angles of me, so it's all good.
Okay, well, Bonnie just joined, so we got, I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, come on, if you can, yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Bonnie, we're just informed that on a Zoom thing, you have to turn on your camera. Okay. And I think Auntie Noi is calling in from out of country or someplace. Okay. I believe we have quorum. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. And in terms of the initial welcome protocol, I've asked Paul Horner. I asked Paul Horner to kind of lead us and share his mana'o with us this morning.
Uh, um, this morning, I wanted to go back a few years when I was a manager in the hospitality industry, a general manager. You know, I was looking for ways to manage our team, our team, and being based in Hawaii, I thought the best way to lay it out would be find a way to manage with Hawaiian values. And then up pops Rosa Say, and she publishes a book called Managing with Aloha a couple years after I started trying to do that. So I became a big fan right away. And she focused on 19 Hawaiian values. And I'm gonna actually go backwards. The one value was the last one she put in there is called Kala Hikiola. Kala Hikiola is like the dawning, literally the dawning of the new day. But it with that dawning of the new day, it brings promise. It can bring joy. It brings, happiness. It can bring sadness too. But it's a promise that something every new day comes. We need to embrace the new day every day. And the other thing is it also brings kind of like a value of hope with it as well that we're going to improve. Things are going to improve. as we move forward. So I think that value of promise and hope, kalahikiola, is going to make us, if we open our hearts to it every day when we wake up, we're going to move forward with style and happiness.
Mahalo. I think that's really good. As we approach the new year too, I think that it's really, really good guidance from you. Thank you, Paul. So with that, I'm going to ask for public comments on our agenda items. And I know that Shanti, I don't know if we can allow you in, but you had some testimony you wanted to raise with us. Thanks for coming again to this meeting, Shanti. Your camera's off, so I don't know if you want to turn your camera on or off. So if you could go ahead, and as you recollect that we have a 3-minute kind of time limit. So as best you can, if you could stay to that 3-minute time limit. Thank you. So go ahead, Shanti. You're muted. There you go.
Aloha, thank you so much for your time. I wanted to say that or submit the testimony that any kind of constructs on the Mauna Kea I'm against. I did submit the packet of legalities of the legal situationship called Hawaii. And please, I hope you go through that. It's a compilation of multiple different legal experts in the field for the situation called Hawaii. And because occupation is war, laws of war apply, making all contracts and such null and void. And so those who are looking for investments must take that into consideration before moving forward. And in order to move forward in Pono, clarifying all of those things and doing the right thing the right way is what I'm here to share. And my just heart. I know everybody is trying their best and making sense of the subjective truths and the narratives being perpetuated. But in a rush, that's not the Pono thing to do. And that's not aloha. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we got your submission late last night, so we'll make sure that the members of the authority get all of the material that you submitted. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I wanted to move to the next agenda item, which is the approval of the minutes of our prior meeting of November 9th. Are there any amendments or changes to those minutes? If not, I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved, John.
I guess second. Second. Okay. Several seconds. With that, all in favor, raise your hand, please.
I'm gonna abstain, John, just because I wasn't there.
I got it. Thank you. Okay. Motion carried. Thank you. Chair report. The only thing I wanted to announce to everyone, if you haven't checked your email today, Rich Matsuda was just appointed yesterday as a new director, not interim director of the Keck Telescope. I think it's a very momentous appointment, not only because he's not an astronomer, but he's also understands and empathetic to and very concerned about we that live here in Hawaii. So with that, congratulations to Rich. I finally will accept that he is Fujio Matsuda's son. But anyway, Rich, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks so much, John. Just wanted to say I remain completely and fully committed to the work on the authority, and the new appointment doesn't change that. It just takes the interim off the title. So looking forward to continuing this good work that we're doing. So thank you, John, for mentioning that. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Rich.
Hello.
Okay, as we move forward, there's no agenda item on governance, but I don't know if there's anyone that wants to testify on governance or administration, which is the next item. So for administration, the first item of business that I'd like to do is that, we've had we were informed and provided with information about designated Mauna Kea as a cultural property, the traditional historic cultural property. And what we have, that matter was brought before Alan Downer, who you see on the screen with SHPD. So we've asked Alan, and Laura has volunteered Alan to give us a sort of status on what's happening on that. So Alan, if you might. Yeah.
Aloha. Aloha. Everybody hear me okay? Okay, so the Historic Places Review Board, which is attached to SHPD for administrative purposes, it is an independent agency. Members are appointed by the governor, confirmed by the Senate. They did, at their last meeting, list Mauna Kea above 6,500 feet as a traditional cultural property. They listed it in the Hawaii Register of Historic Places. They have complete jurisdiction over that. So that action is complete. They also recommended that it be nominated to the National Register of Historic Places. We have the nomination. It needs some editing. But once the editing is complete, we will send it to the National Park Service for their decision making. It is the recommendation of the Park Service. Ultimately, it is the Park Service's decision as to whether or not to list it in the National Register. I would be very surprised if they decide not to list it. I think there's little doubt in my mind that it's a traditional cultural property that meets the pardon me, that meets the criteria for listing in the National Register. I'm sure that the board has some questions about what that means in terms of management of the summit and what implications that might have. So there are two statutes that apply to management of historic properties. One is Chapter 6E of the Hawaii Revised Statutes. The review under 6E was completed years ago, and unless the agency responsible for the action requests that we reconsider the decisions made at that time, the 6E review is complete. So I think, unless either the Board of Land and Natural Resources or the authority request that we reconsider that decision, I think that's no longer an issue. There is also a requirement when there is a federal undertaking for review under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, and it's implementing regulations, which are 36 CFR Part 800. That review has not been done. The fact that NSF is considering and moving, as I understand it, moving forward with putting something on the order of $800 million into the 30-meter telescope project, that makes that action a federal undertaking. And so that decision is subject to review under Section 106. And that, so that state Supreme Court has already ruled that you can't substitute Section 106 for 6E compliance or 6E compliance for Section 106. So There will have to be, the National Park Service will be responsible for Section 106 review. They have informed us that they are, that they are initiating that process. In fact, I just got an email earlier this week saying that, inviting me to a meeting to discuss that. In terms of how that, what difference it makes, it doesn't make any difference really, because Section 106 applies to places that are listed in the National Register, as well as places that are eligible for listing in the National Register. So, it was, in my view, it was always eligible. So the listing doesn't really matter in terms of, there will have to be a 106 review. Whether it's listed or not. So that's my fast pitch. And I'm happy to answer questions or try to provide clarification if anybody needs it.
So Alan, is the review by the National Park Service done in conjunction with the National Science Foundation, or are there two separate reviews?
They're separate.
Yeah. Is it jointly? You know what I'm saying? Is that, or are you going to get them stacked on each other?
No, they're separate reviews, and they are independent. So I mean, so first off, once we send it to the Park Service, they have 45 days. If they fail to act in 45 days, it's automatically listed. Because in my view, it's eligible, and I think the Park Service, golly, I have been talking too much alphabet soup for too long. I think NSF also recognizes that the Mauna Kea is a traditional cultural property, that they're going to have to take that into account during their Section 106 review. So I don't see the process of listing impacting the NSF 106 compliance. And I would guess that, given the fact that NSF is also doing an environmental impact statement under the National Environmental Policy Act, which I think is a much bigger undertaking than Section 106 compliance. I think that will take a much longer to complete.
Okay, thank you. Other questions by other members?
This is Doug Adams. Thanks for the opportunity to ask the questions. I assume that there are other places in the state that there are both the state and the national have identified as historical cultural sites. If that's the case, is there some almost template for what the agencies that have responsibility for those sites have in terms of what their requirements are, in decision making that those agencies may have to make?
I think when you're coming, so the idea of, sort of the Park Service guidance calling out traditional cultural properties sort of as a separate kind of historic property. That guidance first was published in the early 1990s. And it met with considerable resistance. For the better part of a decade, federal agencies resisted dealing with that. And so at this point, people are really still coming to grips with that. I don't know that there's sort of any standardized set of management practices yet, or template, as you say. And I suspect that most of them, that each one of them is unique. And, so it's hard for me to imagine how you deal with that in sort of a categorical fashion, rather than look at it as, look at the particular characteristics of the place and develop management, pardon me, a management framework that, that deals with those unique characters of it. there are, and this is made more complicated by the fact that the way the Park Service codes things into their database, it's impossible to extract from that where places that are specifically listed as traditional cultural properties are. And so, I can think of a couple, Mount Shasta for one. Where else? I know that the Forest Service is trying to come up with a plan for dealing with the San Francisco peaks, and with shoot, what's the name of it? There's one in Arizona, in New Mexico. I can't think of the name. Where again, the Forest Service is, it's a sacred. Both of those, both San Francisco peaks and the one in New Mexico that I'm just drawing a blank on, are sacred to a number of Indian tribes. They're traditional cultural properties, and the Forest Service is trying to address
Is that Kidd Peak?
I'm sorry. No. It's I every time I for some reason I think Mount McKinley, and I know that's not the name. It's right out. It's just immediately northeast of Grants, New Mexico. And I'm just drawing a blank. I apologize. So there are places where agencies are sort of fiddling with this, and I don't know. Like I say, I don't know that anybody's come up with a model that's going to be terribly useful. I think the sort of the best guidance probably comes from the Park Service, and it's not specific to traditional cultural places, but they do have guidance on what they refer to as cultural landscapes. That guidance is derived largely from designed gardens, sort of expanding it to larger landscaped areas. But I mean, they started with here's a historic garden that we think is really cool and needs to be managed as that designed landscape. And they have expanded that concept to deal with larger landscape features. But there too, that's it's still an evolving practice. And I guess I should add this, just to be clear. Historic preservation in the United States and in Hawaii, historic preservation is a process, not an outcome. And so, we used to joke, I worked for the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, which is the federal agency that oversees Section 106 compliance. We used to joke that, you were only allowed under Section 106 to damage a historic property with malice aforethought. So in other words, doing it accidentally was a bad thing, but if you've been thoughtful about it, considered ways to avoid or minimize or mitigate the adverse effects of a particular action, then you have satisfied the requirements of Section 106.
Strange. Great. All right, other questions? All right, if not, Alan, thank you very much for giving us an update. Appreciate everything that you do.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you folks, and I'm sure we will talk more in the future.
I'm sure we will. Thank you.
All right. Aloha.
The next item of business is informational. As you know, we've posted for an executive director. So we're gonna two-step this. The first step that I'm gonna ask Paul to do is kind of at a very high level explain the process that we've undertaken at this point. The second step, as we discuss particulars as it relates to particular individuals that are applied, we're going to take that up in executive session, which I'm going to defer. So we have one executive session at the end. So Paul, if you might kind of explain to everyone the process that you and your committee, Laura and Pomai, undertook.
Yeah. So we went, the job got posted. And we had several applicants that wanted, that were vying for the job, actually. I think the process was we had to go through all the applications as they came in. And we had to see, first of all, who was qualified and who wouldn't be qualified based on the job description that was posted. And, oddly enough, every time a job is posted anywhere, whether it's the state or anywhere else, and when you put the job description down, there's always people that apply for the job anyway that probably don't deserve the opportunity. So we had a few of those. So roughly half of the people that applied for the job, the applicants, we had to send letters to them right away to let them know that, we appreciate you applying for the position, but we're going to move on to the next group of people. So last week, we actually did 4 interviews, and we're through with the interviews. So I think we really feel we're in a good place. But I found out today there was a last-minute applicant. I called Lisa today before the meeting, Lisa Araki. So she's going to forward that to me on Monday, another applicant. So, but we have interviewed everybody else and I think every last one of them is a good candidate. So
With that,
we'll go from there in the executive session.
thank you. So in executive session, we'll get more into the specifics about the individual candidates.
Yep.
Thank you. Laura, Puma, you want to add anything just at a high level about the process you guys undertook?
I guess I'll just say before we go into executive session that we recognize collectively that this position is very public. It's by its very nature and history going to be really challenging. And so, and we know a lot of people will be paying close attention to who we choose and to every action of this person moving forward. So we just expressed our gratitude to everyone who put their name in. It really helped us to have good candidate pool, and it's not going to be an easy position. And I think the folks that will be sharing with you understand the immense kuleana of this job.
I would also just echo what both Paul and Laura shared. The candidate pool is a good pool. And those who put in and submitted their names, submitted with a lot of thought, and bring to the table great experience. And so again, I do think the work going forward is going to be absolutely integral on our part to be able to help to make this transition a worthy one. Mahalo.
Mahalo. And like I said, I'm going to defer the executive session so we don't go in and out of executive session, so that we have one executive session dealing with 2 separate items. With that, I'm going to move to the next item, which all of you have received a proposed second transition working group. And mahalo to Ben for drafting that, and actually it's sort of his idea. So I wanted to have Ben explain what the second you remember the first transition group deals with issues with coal management as we move forward. The second transition group that Ben is going to describe deals more with the kind of the nuts and bolts about how we operationally start evaluating what has to be moved over. So Ben.
Thanks, John. Aloha, everybody. This is the second working group,
and I call it the Long-Term Transition Working Group. Under the Act 255, Part 2, Section 9, all of the assets, both real property as well as personal property of the University of Hawaii relating to the management of the Mauna Kea area are to be transferred over to MKSOA. And so we wanted to be a bit selective rather than just getting everything in bulk, because you may not know what you're getting in terms of any kind of obligations or responsibilities that you were unintended. So our recommendation anyway is to, or proposal is to form a transition working group and to facilitate the transfer of real property and personal property from UH to MKSOA that are relevant to MKSOA's future responsibilities and desires. The first is the number of people on it. Right now, it's 2 permanent, one from MKSOA and one from the University of Hawaii, and then if necessary, 1 person from Department of Land and Natural Resources. And unlike the other transition group where we had 2 people from each side, this is really kind of a technical transition working group. So, and we may need to meet quite often. So balancing less people is easier to get a meeting, and this is a technical thing, and we can always have financial and other people, staff people, advise us as needed as we go along. The proposal was to limit it to 1 person. But I'm open to whatever you folks feel. This particular transition working group doesn't really make any decisions or set any policies. It just makes recommendations. So I listed the stages of work that the transition group will be involved in. The first is an accurate inventory of real and personal property that UH presently has, whether it's to be transferred or not. I just want it all. And apparently that has been being worked on now. And I think you heard Greg Chun represent to us at the last meeting that they're thinking of getting that to us sometime early next year. That's a long process because you gotta get everything in there. So there'll be a review of that inventory once we receive it next year by the transition group to determine its completeness or not. It may have to go back again for further work on it if we feel there are pukas in there. But once we get that accurate inventory, then we're ready to do the analysis, and that's where the meat of the work is going to be. It'll be analyzing the various real property and personal property from a fiscal standpoint, a management, and a legal standpoint. And this is things that we will look at something and say you have a contract with Xerox for 10 machines. Well, we have to look at that in terms of, number one, whether it's even assignable, whether there's any conditions to the contract that are imposed if you assign it, whether there's any fee or penalty, and whether there's third parties that are required to consent or weigh in if you have an assignment on the table. The latter is particularly true for leases and real property types of assets that are transferred. So those are the kinds of things that we will be looking at in terms of the stage 2 analysis and review. Then we reach a stage 3, which is after we have a matrix of all the assets, whether they'll be transferred, whether they have conditions, whether there are other things that are imposed. We will develop a draft transfer plan that we will bring to MKSOA, and the UH representative will bring to the Board of Regents, and DLNR may bring it to their board for review and input. Based on the input that we receive on the transfer plan,
We'll try to finalize it for approval by the respective boards. That's really stage 3. And stage 4 is really the implementation of the transfers. And some of the transfers may be able to be occurred, relatively short, within 30 days or something like that. Others may take years. And the reason I say that is because this is particularly true when you have third parties and you have contracts or leases that involve third parties, and there may be some negotiation that goes along with it. There may be, in the case of dealing with federal government or government agencies, delay in terms of getting responses back, et cetera, et cetera. And since it's an iterative process, it goes back and forth. And sometimes the response time is not in days, but in months. So it does take time. And so based on my experience, I think the transition may take 1 to 2 years to complete for all of the real property and personal properties, some of which may be very easy, some of which may be very problematic or difficult. But that we may not finish by July 1st to 2028. I hope we do, but in order to try to give us the best chance of succeeding, because I think the success of this board is very important. I think John can talk about that to a lot of people. And to try to at least give us a running shot, I want to have the transfer plan reach stage 4, which is implementation, by mid-2025 at the very latest. Because, I think it's going to take, like I said, a while to get all of these, the T's dotted and the I's crossed, or T's crossed and I's dotted, so that we can get a closing where everything has been transferred. That notwithstanding, I know that sometimes post-closing, which is after July 1st, there's going to be something that might come up, or items that come up that we may have to deal with separately after July 1st. Inevitably, something will drop between the cracks. Hopefully not, but some things do. And so there'll be post-closing kinds of transfers as well, or analysis. The work of this transition group may go beyond 2028, as I suspect. Anyway, that in a nutshell is the proposal. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to respond to them.
Before you guys ask questions, where I want us to go is I want to get concurrence on the creation of this particular working group from our side. And I'm going to ask Ben to lead that transition group. So anyway, I open it up to, let me make one other comment. One other kind of thing that might happen is that, when you acquire a property, you may have a grant or other type of outside funding, and those funders may have put conditions on your ability to transfer. So that's another type, just to give another example of some of the things that we're gonna have to examine and investigate. Yeah. In addition to the examples that Ben raised. So with that, open it up to questions from members. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ben, for all your work and the previous transition committee's work. This is really very helpful and really well thought out. I just have a specific question about the potential of having a DLNR person on the transition working group. I understand it says if necessary, and I guess I just wanted to share or ask if that person, I think someone else within our department would have much better skill sets than me to assist this transition working group. I don't know exactly where the gap might be that you would want DLNR administrative support. So I just wanted to make sure that if you form the group that way, that's a possibility.
Yeah, I have no problem with DLNR being a standing member of the committee. The reason I put if necessary is because some of the real property and personal assets have nothing to do with DLNR. And I don't think your staff member wants to sit in a meeting talking about transfer of desks and computers and automobiles from, yeah. you
Oh,
know, that
yeah, no, I think you're right. I think they would be happy to help and also happy to not attend unless truly
Okay, all
needed.
right.
And so I mainly just wanted to make sure that, you were thinking more administrative support, like our engineering or HR
Right,
folks that
yeah.
have been supporting us. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Other questions? No.
Hi. Mahalo, Ben. That was really good work that you've done to create this working group. My only question and concern is, while I agree having the small group is always much easier to be mobile and efficient, the nature of our appointments makes me concerned about the fact that this is going to take place over a period of time that may exceed any one of our terms. And so I just wondered if we might have two people to represent MKSOA. I don't think it means you need to have two people on the other side, because it's just a...
Oh, we lost you. No, we lost. Hello?
Oh, sorry. Anyway,
About 10,
hello?
15 seconds.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, real quick, let me turn off my video so that helps. I just wondered if we should have two people from the committee, from the authority, sit on this to ensure that there's longevity in our membership, seeing that the timeline exceeds possibly any of our appointments.
Again, I don't have any qualms or problems about that. My only motive was that I know how hard it is to get people to meet, and so I didn't want to make it too large so that we can only meet a few times a month in a few months and such, because there's a lot of work to be done. So and you're absolutely correct. Continuity is important. My stint is going to end probably next year. So but my whole personal objective is to set it all up so that somebody can jump in and continue running it if I'm not still on the MKSOA. But yeah, I mean, if that's what the group wants, then I have no problem with that.
Other questions? Okay, so based upon what I've heard so far, and just from a conceptual idea, does anybody have problems with this concept of creating this another working group? If not, I think that the point raised by Noi and kind of agreed by Ben of having two members is probably a good idea. So we got to figure out who's the second. Like I said, if you guys are in concurrence that Ben can lead us, lead our side in the group initially, and I'll start discussing, and we can bring it to the group the next time about who our second member is. I don't know that we actually have to take a vote on this. Ben, do we have to take a vote, do you believe, to create this transition group?
Well, under the law, you're required to do it, so I don't think it's an option to say no. In terms of facilitating this, the structure.
Yeah, but that's just the structure. We don't have to vote on the structure, right?
I don't think so.
Right. All right. So if unless there are any objections or further discussion, we'll proceed along with the transition group with Ben leading it, and I'll start discussing who might be good to be the second member of the group. Right. And again, Ben, thank you for all. Ben did a lot of hard work and thinking this out.
Oh, you need to work this. Let the Board of Regents know, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So much, Ben.
Okay.
So let me, for the record, say that Kalihua and Lanakila joined us prior to the start of this discussion on this particular subject matter. And because I see the two of you in the room, I forgot to ask, is there is everybody since the inception of the meeting been alone in their room during the course of this meeting?
Yes.
No, but I have, nobody's hearing what's going on.
All right, thank you.
Me as well. I have my headset on.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is that we created a pig dealing with community outreach and communications, and they have submitted a report which all of you were provided with. Laura is going to provide us with a further description, I guess, or more in-depth description. Under the Sunshine Law, and this is, I don't quite get it myself, but what I've been instructed is that you cannot ask questions of her. And it's just a one-way. Laura has the floor and she's just going to talk. And for us to move on their recommendations, and for any questions that you might have, we have to wait to the next meeting for any questions. I'm not sure from why that makes sense, but I've been instructed that that's what we got to do. So Laura, you have the floor.
So I think,
To say whatever you want to say for the next how many minutes you want to use.
That's too much freedom. Okay. Yeah, so let's see, our communications and community outreach pig. I was joined by Paul and Pomai and Lanakila, and we broke out our 2 avenues of Kuleana, communications and community outreach. So looking first at communications, we did identify that communications is so important for the authority that eventually we would like to see a dedicated communications director for the authority, but that we have some pressing communications needs, and we don't have an established communications position. And so our recommendation is to move forward with contracting communications professional or firm that can help us really set up some of the foundational elements for communications for the authority moving forward, such as a website, social media platform, some strategies on how we want to be communicating, frequency, public relations, community relations. And so our recommendation on communications is for the board to, at the appropriate time, discuss the hiring of such a contractor. And then moving on to community outreach, we did all feel that we've been very quiet, and we've had definitely a lot on our plate and have needed to get our bearings. And now with some time together and kind of getting our feet on solid ground together, we do feel that it's very much so time to start getting out in community sharing in real time, where we've come so far in this year together, where we're moving, and then continue that community engagement and updates moving forward. And so we identified 2 ways that we could do this, which would meet our community outreach goals. The first is we could do community talk story sessions that are separate from our regular monthly meetings. And really, we would be sharing information. We would be giving an opportunity for those who have an interest, dedication to Mauna Kea to voice their concerns. A second way that we could get out into community is to hold our monthly meetings. Instead of over Zoom, we were thinking, okay, maybe we could alternate, right? And our recommendation there is to, actually, let me just scroll down to that. So in order to, I guess, continue this work, we may need to create another PIG. This would maybe be a question for our council and to get the board's feedback on, but we know that this will be continual work, that we would like the authority members to have the opportunity to be involved in, even if we were to hire a contractor who could help us with both, one or both of them. So our recommendation is to create a new PIG if we need to. Our understanding is that this current communications PIG can't last forever. And then we do have a proposed kind of meeting schedule. And our thought was really, we wanted to focus in next year on our Hawaii Island communities and make sure that we're not forgetting anyone. And so we had a proposal to do meetings quarterly next year on Hawaii Island. And the committee suggested that we time the meetings so that they occur in the months of our equinox or our solstices, and kind of keep us grounded together. And then the following year, we could go out and touch all of the islands, since we know Mauna Kea touches everyone across our island chain. And that could be done really, we could achieve that meeting schedule either way, either through our regularly scheduled meetings or through additional special focus community outreach meetings. We also had a discussion about how Mauna Kea Authority itself was brought about because there's a recognition that the people of Hawaii wanted something different. They didn't really want business as usual. They wanted a more culturally grounded entity to lead stewardship of Mauna Kea. And so in that spirit, we discussed that our meetings out in community might look a little different while still following our sunshine law, if we decide that these would be our regularly scheduled meetings or our official Mauna Kea meetings. And so in discussing with staff and council too, as long as we're following the letter of the law for sunshine, you can agendize protocol. You can agendize having an AHA. You can agendize having ceremony. You can, all of these things can be agendized. And so those are all good details to figure out later, but that is what we were envisioning to make sure that our community listening sessions or that our regular meetings that are out in community are allowing for that connection between all of us and those in attendance and Mauna Kea, and are allowing for that connection between one another as well. So I guess I'll stop there.
This sunshine makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, we should be able to ask her questions and get clarification and whatever, but I've been counseled by our lawyer that we cannot engage with Laura. So we'll put this on the, remember your questions, write them down, because we'll have to take this up in our January meeting. I have some comments just about scheduling that I'm going to make at the very end. in terms of our board meetings for next year, just in general. But anyway, with that, thank you, Laura, and thank you for the others on the committee for you guys' hard work in pushing this forward. We understand it's very, very important, and as Laura said, I think the time now is right for us to start moving on to the community. Thank you. With that, we're going to get in. There's nothing to report on the finance. Operational update. I'm going to turn it over to Greg and a couple of his staff members. Part of what I want to make sure that we, as the authority, understand is that everybody focuses on astronomy, but there's a lot of other things that the CMS is undertaking and doing. So I wanted to kind of have a presentation on natural resources as well as their educational outreach programs that they're doing. So with that, I turn it over to Greg. And I think Justin, who's lead on the natural resources, is going to provide us an update of what they've been doing over the past year. And then we'll have Kaleo tell you a little bit about what the educational outreach has been.
Hello, Ben. John. Hello, board members. Thank you. Good to see you all again. As you know, John has been attending as he's able to our Mauna Kea Management Board meetings. And in November, we had Justin and Kaleo present their annual reports to the Mauna Kea Management Board. And it was after that John asked if we could also do the same presentations to you folks. So I'd like to introduce Justin Ye, who is our Resource Management Manager. He oversees implementation of all of those management actions in the comprehensive management plan that the university is required to implement as concerns our cultural and our natural resources. And I'd like to also introduce Kaleo Pilago, who is our education and outreach coordinator. Kaleo his position is a new position that we added and were able to recruit for earlier this year. Kaleo comes to us from the Hawaii Community College, where he has been a long-time staff member there. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justin first. I believe you folks have the PowerPoint presentations, and he'll be walking you through and describing the different work that they've done this year, as well as the major accomplishments. So Justin.
There, everyone. Justin Ye. I grew up in Hilo. Went to Ikea, UH Hilo, and did my master's on natural resource management at UH Manoa. So I just wanted to go over 2023 highlights, and thank you folks for the opportunity to present our work and our dedication to Mauna. In terms of staffing, our resource management team, we hired on 2 resource management associates, Kayla Warner, who grew up in Mountain View and then attended Hilo High in UH Hilo, and then just received their master's from Manoa. Also, Anuhia Robbins, who grew up in Waianae, attended Kamehameha School's Kapalama, and went on to Washington State University and received her master's from UH Hilo in May. We also had an intern this summer from Pipes in UH Hilo, who grew up in Hilo and is currently pursuing a bachelor's degree there. And then our resource plant restoration assistants, Patty, Nahi, and Avalon, who are on part-time but have been very instrumental in getting our on-the-ground restoration areas done. So I'll move into our cultural management actions. Next slide. And so these are laid out by our comprehensive management plan, and CMS tries to complete each of these actions through our team efforts every year. They're broken up into cultural and natural resource management, and these actions are completed through our day-to-day operations, but I'll give you examples of these in the next coming slides. We also have our education and outreach management actions, which Khalil will probably elaborate on in his next presentation. And then our activities and use monitoring through our evaluating our management actions and plans as needed. So with that, we'll go into our standard operating procedures. These stem from our invasive species management plan from 2015. They were implemented.
Justin, whoever's operating the screen, can you make it like shrink the screen to 100%? You're getting cut off on the end, right, on the screens.
No, I need to actually. You do.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Buena. Yeah, these management actions from the previous slide are implemented through our standard operating procedures. SOP 1, which is the cleaning of vehicles and personal belongings. We conducted a total of 145 inspections on equipment and vehicles. And 4 of those inspections were re-inspected after cleaning of invasive species and removing of organic material. 3 of those inspections were rejected and asked to come back after bifenthrin treatment, which were treated for ants and invasive insects, and then were approved and follow-up inspections. And in 2023, CMS resumed our quarterly facility monitoring in the spring. That would be in SOP 10. So what we did was go out to each observatory facility and then set traps and then retrieve those traps, and we didn't find any new threats to our arthropod communities up there. And then also our annual alien invertebrate detection and bug monitoring. So we were able to conduct those surveys at all 111 sites laid out in SOP 11. And we set a total of 226 traps and observed 106 bugs in total. But there's a very big drop off from 2022 where we surveyed 70 sites and set 107 traps and found 3,311 bugs that year. And then we also visited 78 historical sites where we looked for invasive vegetation, invasive arthropods, and we didn't detect any new threats. We also assisted PPSI as they do their cultural monitoring on all of those sites.
Can I ask a question before you move on? Can you just share the your VAQ numbers again and why sort of your folks' hypothesis on the big difference in numbers?
So the vacuum bug populations fluctuate dramatically. What I've noticed in the data was there's like a 5-year progression up to a very big boom, which we observed last year. And then this past year, the population drops and then it goes down to a low. So I think it's very fluctuating, the numbers in vacuum bug detections, but if we see an increase next year, it'll kind of follow that same trend that we've been seeing. But we had 106 this year and then 3,311 last year. Good.
Mahalo. Yeah, mahalo for that.
No problem. In terms of restoration activities, next slide. We outplanted 296 new outplants of Mamare, Oveovea, Stanaji, or Mo'oioi, and then Puakala, Hilo, and then Ko'okola. We also acquired a permit to help manage the silver sword enclosure with DLNR, and the use of community stewardship through our volunteers to remove invasive vegetation. and provide a site for out plants as well. And then we removed over 14,500 pounds of invasive vegetation as well through our volunteer employee efforts. And then currently we have 273 individuals of Silver Sword Greenhouse through a partnership with DLNR and NARS to help support their goals of increasing genetic diversity within that species. And at one point, there were only 9 wild individuals known to exist on Mauna Kea. But now they're in the thousands through different agencies' outplanting efforts. And currently, we are drafting a restoration plan for the entire area of Hale Pahaku, where most of the vegetation lies in our managed areas, and we hope to provide an educational trail and interpretive signage for all visitors that come up to the mountain. In terms of our cultural landscape, we have 263 historical sites within the UH managed lands. There are an additional 109 sites within the Mauna Kea Ice Age Natural Area Reserve System that DLNR manages. Monitoring of these sites occur on an annual basis. Some of these sites are on a 3- and 5-year monitoring basis. So moving forward, this monitoring program should be reassessed after 12 years of monitoring. And I mentioned earlier, we visited about 78 sites in 2023. And PCSI handles the cultural monitoring and reporting every year. And we have those reports available for you guys. If you need it, just ask. And then also we do research permits for Mauna Kea. Anna Becker, who is a PhD candidate, is working on her last chapter and has found that the Mauna Kea ohelo is an endemic species to Mauna Kea and could be considered a separate species altogether for vaccine and palladium. And then Walter Haley's is conducting high elevation effects on the human body, and his research continues, and they plan to come back, I think, in January. Ryan Croy used drones and LiDAR to create hydrology maps and model the erosion of Mauna Kea. And he had just conducted his flights in December, complete his data set. So we await his findings. Dan Rubinoff and Brad Rio have curated a local database of Mauna Kea arthropod DNA barcodes, and they're going to release their publications likely until he graduates until 2025. One of those publications will be on the biodiversity analysis based on the samples gathered, a food web to describe the Arctic communities in the alpine and subalpine ecosystems, and then novel insights into the diets of these arthropods, such as Becky bug. And then the discussions on natural community stability and the impact of invading species, which directly correlates to the work that we do through all our monitoring and inspection efforts. Norbert Schorhofer has been doing permafrost study, and he currently has 5 studies on Pu'uveku and 2 on Pu'uaokea. And then he has just submitted his 3-year plan. So we currently hope to support him in his long-term permafrost study and the decline of permafrost on Mauna Kea. And there's Heather Stever, who is currently working on her 2nd paper to submit for publication. And she has just presented in the November EC meeting that we hold. And then Diamond Tachera, who completed her sampling in 2020 and her dissertation in May of 2022. And we added a copy of her dissertation to our library. She was studying the water isotopes in the hydrology of Mauna Kea. And then I'll move on to our future goals as our organization. We really hope to have launch and get past the new members for the Environment Committee to look over projects and provide input on sensitive areas that our team hadn't addressed. And then we are currently drafting a restoration plan for Hale Pahaku, as I mentioned earlier. We want to provide a designated path to the Humuula trail system to prevent foot traffic on the road and have a trail that visitors who can't make it all the way up to the summit can use to educate themselves about other things besides astronomy and the natural resources on Mauna Kea. And then we'd like to reassess our monitoring plans for both arthropod and cultural sites. We've been doing these surveys since 2010 and 2012. And so they kind of need a reassessment of to increase our efficiency as a staff. And then these are just ideas for our team to help make our work count towards active management versus passive management. And then lastly, we are here to help support the transition of MKSO and manage Mauna Kea cooperatively with you all. And with that, I'll open the floor to questions. Just an interesting note about this picture. This is part of our team during the summer, checking out some of the silver sword in full bloom with NARS. And then some of those plants that in our greenhouse will hopefully turn into. And this just shows over 50 years of partnership and work coming together. Some of the pollen was collected in the 70s and then I guess fertilized in the 90s. So, you know, some of the plants that we're taking care of are just, there's a lot of work coming together in one photo here. But yeah, any questions?
Okay. Sorry, I can't see everyone, so go ahead if you have a question.
Hi, aloha. This is Lanakila. I just had a question too. Just this is really great to hear. This is a lot of the stuff that many of us do want to kako and continue to support and even increase, of course, too. So, I guess one of my general questions too is with this hui, do you feel well supported? I know it's kind of like in its infancies and continuing, but with additional funding and support, would it be able to, is the potential there to be able to uplift and increase the productivity of these types of things in the future? If or are you feeling that support right now, or do you guys have that backing and support to further these things and or also increase these efforts?
Yeah, I feel like our team has been growing. I started in December of last year, so I just made a year in. And you know, Greg and Noah and CMS has been very supportive of our vision and trying to increase our restoration areas and trying to partner with MKFRP and DLNR and you know, feeling a lot of support. You know, they provided me with a couple of employees and helping me take the load off of all the day-to-day on the ground stuff and doing more of the management and planning side of things. So feel very supported by our organization, and I hope to continue that with you folks too.
Right, mahalo. And just one more little quick thing. I know that you said your partnership with the NARS too. So was really excited to see the small greenhouse that was put up, I guess about 2 years ago now, up there, and to see what the productivity was able to be produced in that little greenhouse. And you know, personally, I'm like, oh, we need more of those up there to help that happen. But so right now, with you guys orgs, are you also still continuing with the partnership with NARS? I know they were doing Silver Sword germination all the way down like Volcano. Is that partnerships, or are you guys still using that greenhouse too, or is that connected here?
Yeah, so yeah, we're still continuing that partnership with them, and we look forward to outplanting the 273 we have in the greenhouse and then starting a new batch in next May or March or whenever that may be. I forgot the dates. We started those seedlings, but yeah, and then even in our restoration plan, I want to put up another greenhouse, a bigger greenhouse that can help support all the different high elevation projects going on Mauna.
Yo, Mike,
I I have a question and I guess a couple comments. Yeah, really just want to commend you for your work, and it's clear how passionate you are. Looking at this photo of this really tall silver sword and so many people that care about it. So thank you so much for your work. How many people do you have now on your team? And I think I'm just making a note for myself that because there's the CMS dedicated crew, and then there's the NARS team, there's the we have Kala Asing and Mauna Kea Watershed Alliance. So it's like a kind of like a network of folks working on natural resource management, and maybe just a note later at the right time I could call upon our folks to share out too. But I really appreciate all of your work, and yeah, would just love to know what is your number right now of people on your team?
There's myself, Taylor and Anu, who work directly under me, and then also we have two part-timers, Nahi and Avalon. And then Patty is she's on workers' comp. So yeah, but in total we have about 4 people on the ground right now, or 5 people in total in that department.
Okay, mahalo.
Hey, this is Rich. I just wanted to mahalo the efforts of your team, Justin, and just want to say to Lanakila's point about trying to grow the effort. Observatories want to continue to kako the efforts, like with the weed pools and things like that, and hopefully even grow them. So you and I can continue to talk, and I can be an interface to the observatories to try to generate even more volunteer support for that. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a quick, I guess just I'm interested to know. So you have about 5 staff members and stuff. If it's appropriate to ask too, what does your department have an estimated annual budget to be able to run your program at this current capacity?
The budget has been growing. I don't have the specific number right now, but I would say it's, with all the additional staff that we've hired, it's well north of 500,000 a year. I'm not exactly sure what the number is.
Okay. I'm sure Justin's going to stick around. So if you have questions after Kaleo's presentation, I'm sure he'll be open to it. So with that, mahalo, Justin, and we'll call on Kaleo to let you know what he's been doing in terms of education outreach.
Well, my kako. My name is Kaleo Pilago. I've been a part of the University of Hawaii system. I got hired in 2007. Different capacities. I work for academic affairs and student affairs, but I'm new to CMS. I started in May. But yeah, I think when this position came up and I was looking at the position, what kind of motivated me to apply was the whole, the need for our community to get more involved, the need for our community to get accurate information, yeah, and also the need for just our people to have opportunities to go up and participate in different field projects up at the Mauna. So yeah, so I'm here as of May, and feel real good where we're at this point. Yeah, so if we can jump to the first slide, please. Just a brief program overview. I know initially when I first started, there was a education and outreach plan, which I reviewed, and I kind of started rewriting one for myself. It wasn't necessarily a new outreach plan, it was more strategic approaches that I would take and priorities that I felt that we should really look at. And so yeah, before I tend to digress, I hope I'm on time limit. So I'm gonna stick to the slide. So I give you guys the information that I think you need. As far as the program overview goes, I have a couple key goals. There's a few more goals, of course, but the main goals for me was, taking care of the natural and cultural resources on the Mauna, and was through education and outreach. Education being having resources and providing the information that people are looking for in different ways, like presentations and online resource availability and all of that. And some of the outreach initiatives for me was actually getting out there, partnering with different institutions, community groups, and providing these hands-on field projects that I think a lot of our community can learn a lot from. They can gain a deeper appreciation. Not to say our community members don't have a connection to the Mauna, but when you do hands-on field projects and learning activities, you tend to just develop a deeper appreciation of the Mauna. And for us, even for me, an important part was participating in community events, representing CMS at college fairs, and we did the Girl Scout STEM Fest a couple months ago, and just providing update information and connecting with different groups that are in our community. And that connects to that bottom goal. Another important part of what we're trying to accomplish is training our staff with protocol and some Olelo. We're kind of fortunate, we have one former Olelo instructor at the visitor center. So she's been trying to do stuff at different levels, but I think we're actually gonna increase that. It's really important for me and CMS as an organization to have protocols and language and appropriate use of protocols and language in the different things we're doing, daily operations, even stuff like opening the visitor center and pulling before we eat and all of that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff we're going to incorporate more of. And in working with Justin and his team, we go out to, I always share that. I thought I knew the Mauna. I've been going up there since we were young, just hunting and all of that. But when I started going up there this past summer, and just tagging along with the archaeological surveys and the invasive species surveys in the field, you really see that there's a lot out there that we don't know about. I mean, there's ahu and burials and trailways and work sites and caves and all of this stuff that our kupuna was using for thousands of years. And I really, it's important for us to incorporate protocols and pule when we're going out to these areas. And I'm pretty stoked because Justin's team was real open to learning, and they actually have been, doing basic pule and oli. And as CMS staff gets trained, we will actually increase, the levels of protocols that we're teaching. Because we go to some intense places, and just last week we went up did a survey in Mauna Kea, and Mauna Kea kind of loosely translates to the Hill of People, and that's pretty much the most densely populated burials on the Mauna. And I guess I don't like saying in the past, but before people just go up, do these surveys and these studies, and they're out. But I think it's really important for us to actually go up there and do the proper protocols that we should have been doing. Yeah, so that's why it's important for me to I don't like say mandatory, like everybody gotta do it, but I think it should be a part of how we do things when we go up to the places. So thank you. I was on this slide for longer than I anticipated. So in order for me to accomplish some of the goals that I set for this program, I kind of had to break them down into 3 separate categories. Yeah. And the areas of focus for me would be exploration, conservation, and community. And for each one, I get different goals and different approaches that I'm gonna try to, reach the goals that we set. So we go to the next one. So for under exploration, this is where I wanted to provide different opportunities for people to learn about the areas. Yeah, like a lot of us see the whole Mauna as on Ahu, the whole Mauna as on Vahipana, and the real physical stuff that we see, like the Pu'u and Waiao and Keanakakoi, that people tend to they visit a lot. There's some understanding of the places, but if we was to, I gotta still revisiting that. But if it was to set up opportunities where we can take people to these places and learn the history, the culture, and the scientific significance of these places, it would be really beneficial for our community to just, on one hand, gain a deeper understanding of the area. On the other hand, know how to act when you go visit these areas. You cannot just be walking through and checking it out. That's should have on focus and should have on purpose. So for me, it's really important to do presentations and like Laura mentioned earlier, these talk story sessions, yeah. And the focus of these presentations could vary. Some of the ones we did would focus on, like we had work groups coming up for the work projects, so we focus on that. Others we talk about the Vahipana, others we focus on the Pu'u. So these talk story sessions, I think is critical because I think our people wanted to have opportunities to get updated current information about things that are happening on the Mauna. So we're going to be doing a lot more of those. And then, of course, the field projects, as I spoke about earlier, we've been having a lot of interest for people wanting to volunteer. And it's more so under the Malama'aina project. So we always, like the partnerships with DLNR that Justin mentioned, we were able to actually go into the Hinaina enclosure by the visitor center and start doing some work in there. So right there is our main area of focus right now. So we're trying to get that place all cleaned up and ready for when the Hina sprouts are ready to go in the ground. Yeah. And I put in the Kama'aina Observatory experience. They're trying to revive that. It's when our local community would have opportunities to visit the different observatories, but we have another point person for that one. I'll be a part of it, but not necessarily the point person for CMS on that project yet. Yeah, and under conservation, it's the hands-on projects that I think it's really important. This is where people can come up and actually do stuff on the Mauna. They have a purpose for being there, not just visiting there. So that's why I'm really fortunate to have Justin and his team. We both coordinate groups, but for me, it's really important to go out, talk to different groups, and if they're interested in bringing their haumana or their families up, we provide the opportunities to them. So, yeah, and that, we're going to continue that. And it's actually, I think for next year, we get, 2 or 3 groups per month for at least until August that are interested in coming up. And again, with all of that, one of the goals is to protect and preserve all of the sites and of course the habitat that exists in these areas. And that's where we work a lot with the different state agencies and I think nonprofits too. Yeah, to help maintain all of these sites there and habitats. Next slide, please. Oh, sucks. Can go back one. Yeah, so these are some of the groups that we had. We hosted since June and July. We get UH Hilo in here. We get the Lanakila Learning Center kids. We have a good partnership with the UH Hilo Education Department where they have a Kuleana and community class. And the big part of their class is community service. So we would visit their classes, do a presentation, do the safety briefing with them, and would actually bring them up to do a project up on the mountain. So yeah, these are all recent pictures or recent projects that we just had. Okay, thank you. Put in the next slide. And then the community part, it's a really important part of my job where we should get ourselves out there. We should be connecting with people and connecting with the community. So we just tabling and providing information at different events. We're in the process of updating all of the entire visitor center, the patio signage, the interior walls, the whole layout of the center. And then really working with different groups and different people. Like Imilo has a bunch of interns from Navahi and Kaumeke, I think, that are helping with the signage, especially the ones on the patio. You know, I don't like to say basic, but making sure our spelling is correct, making sure the molelo is correct. Just kind of doing all of that, the important stuff that I think we should focus on. Yeah. That way we're giving out the right information, we're sharing accurate information. Yeah. And then one of my other goals is maybe not next year, but the following year, looking at hosting different public events, kind of still envisioning or trying to see how that would look. Yeah, like public events that would focus on, stuff like the archaeological sites, other ones that would focus on Keanakokoi and the practice of the ads and waiao and all of that. Just different events that have a specific focus and bring in our kupuna and our educators and stuff, and we can share, again, appropriate and accurate information with our community. So yeah, ready. Thank you. And then this is some of the things that we're hoping that I am planning on doing in the upcoming year. So at least one field project per month. We have 2 to 3 per month scheduled already. And one guided field trip to Keanakokoi and Waiao and the summit area. That one again is still in development. I don't like saying like open them up to everybody, but it would be I would have to, there's a lot that's gonna be that it'll entail with the coordination and which groups and why and all of that. The safety part is a real important part for me to consider as well. So that is one part that it's still in development. It will happen soon and eventually, but it'll take a little bit more planning. Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, I like visiting classes and school groups and stuff and sharing, of course, the developments and the things we're doing at CMS, but also sharing about the Mauna in general. So continue the presentations. And then the community outreach events, we participated in 4 since June. And again, just have informational flyers, bring Anu folks from Justin's team to talk about the VQ and Waiao and the water studies they've been doing. So yeah, participate in 6 per year should be plenty, or participation in 6 per year. And as I mentioned earlier, community events is still in development, but yeah, hoping to get that going soon. And again, continue to expand the community engagement part. Yeah, just providing these opportunities for people to come up and learn, but also providing resources, be it online or even quick Zoom talk story sessions or different types of activities that people can get information in regards to what we're doing on the Mauna. And we're doing continue the protocol training for staff. Yeah, some of our staff members are fairly new to Samara Olelo and Oli and Pule, so we gotta start, level 1, and we just keep adding to them and increasing as people get familiar and comfortable with it. Yeah, so yeah, I think more slide. Yeah. Oh, sorry, long my slide. And this is just what we have accomplished and the amount of people we work with since I came on board in May. So group presentations, we do class visits and stuff, and we check out different groups. We participated in 4 different community events, and we had 6. Well, Justin, I said more. I had 6 Mauna work days. Yeah, and again, it's in partnership with Justin's team and DLNR. We get pretty happy with that. We have a work site Hinahin enclosure next to the visitor center. And these pictures kind of highlights some of the stuff we've been doing in the community. And then upper picture on the right, that's the survey crew from this past August. Other than that, I think that's all I have. Are there any questions for me?
Aloha. I just want to say mahalo nui. This is really awesome to see, and this is the initiatives again too. I know of myself personally, I really want to see happening with the Mauna and this engagement, and really pili our community to becoming active participants in the restoration and care of our Mauna kapu. So nui ka mahalo, and yeah. Anyways, I know myself personally can be of assistance in this and support these efforts, and I know I think for us as an initiative, this is part of our responsibility, as you know, the stewardship of conservation lands. Is what our community has been speaking towards a lot, and so just really want to mahalo. I really do support these efforts. They sound awesome. Mahalo.
Yeah, I know when I just briefly read through that PIG report regarding community outreach, and that section about the focus was on not so much on our community, and I think I kind of felt good with that, because the focus on the things that I'm trying to accomplish is more focused on our community, and the more our community have opportunities to get involved, I think yeah, we're gonna find a little bit more balance on things will shift. I don't know how else to explain that, but you're just kind of shifting the focus, not necessarily taking a priority and putting on somebody else. We're just trying to make opportunities more equitable, I think, in our community, if that makes sense. Mahalo.
Well, and I just want to thank you, Kaleo, for something else you're going to do next semester, which is Kaleo's part of a small team from UH Hilo that's going to go to a workshop on stewardship of public lands that's being sponsored by one of our professional organizations. And I think having Kaleo as part of the team with some faculty and staff from the campus will make it a really powerful experience. And I think, you'll be able to share some things from your experiences here on the Mauna with our colleagues across the country. So they're all going to Glacier next summer to do this, Glacier National Park. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you for the support with that too. So I think we're starting up that cohort in January. In addition to, I ran into Kekui, and I'm part of the Halau'uhia cohort as well for the upcoming year. Just, I got the opportunity to learn from the Kanakole Foundation, and this is just to make sure I'm all up to date in my knowledge, and adding new tools that I can use in the future too. So yeah, thank you, Chancellor Irwin, for the support.
Hello, it's Rich again. Just repeating, offer of support and involvement, just like I said to Justin, with your efforts. So mahalo for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
I wanted to echo thanks as well. Even in our transition, right, the Mauna remains, and we need the consistent stewardship. So your folks' job is so important, and I just want to thank you for your work. I do have a question about how both of you interact with the management board, Kahuku Mauna, and the environment committee, like frequency, monthly meetings, or sort of what that's like. That would just help us as we establish our structure. Just any insights you could give us.
From my end, I do more as a attendee, but I do attend the Mauna Kea Management Board meetings. For Kahuku Mauna, I do provide reports on what I'm doing in the education and outreach. So it's monthly. Huh? The meetings are monthly. Was our last meeting with the Mauna Kea Management Board where me and Justin presented, but other than that, I'm just an attendee. So yeah, we do participate in these meetings. Me, not so much in the environment committee and the what is the other one? Yeah, so that's the only two committees or meetings that I attend primarily.
Yeah, I chair the environmental committee every month, and then I'm planning on doing quarterly updates to KKM and also MKMB in the future year. Yeah, but yeah, I mostly attend KKM and MKMB as an attendee. But yeah, get some long days out there in the field.
Mahalo. Do you have anyone from, or can you share the makeup of the environment committee? I know that it takes partnerships for stewardship of the Mauna, so I'm wondering if you use it almost like a watershed partnership. Like, do you have a representative from DLNR and a representative from the bigger Mauna Kea Watershed Alliance, or how do you use those environment committee meetings?
The environmental committee isn't really set up like a traditional public board. It's more of a volunteer committee, and they are subject to sunshine law. So we usually have return attendees from BISC, Don Thomas from UH comes in, and then that's why we're trying to stir up a little bit more participation within our environmental committee. So maybe reaching out to MKWA and then KFRP on those things would be good. Right now, I think Joe Kern from MKFRP is trying to do a predator control of the entire island for Hawaii Island. So I'm gonna participate in that next year, and so hopefully we can try to get more people involved with our environmental committee. But they're made up of a bunch of different specialists, like Frank Harris, who was my old ecology professor. Jordan or Kamali Loy was part of the environmental committee for but he has moved positions. So usually we have a representative from NAR, but because of staffing changes, we haven't had anybody from that.
Is Deborah still part of the group?
Oh yeah, Deborah
Ward.
Deborah Ward. She's a regular attendee as well. And so yeah, but trying to get like some of these old researchers that have done studies on the mountain can help us provide more expert insight into different projects that we have up there.
Okay, and then sorry, I have one more follow-up question. You said that it was a volunteer committee, so not set up as a sunshine committee, right? And I guess I'm just making maybe a comment then that I could see for that committee in particular, some of the conservation practices, they're so technical. Like you can spend a long time talking about fence installation or what application to use for a certain invasive species. So I can see how that might be helpful for the authority to continue just having that volunteer kind of alliance or partnership working group that is not sunshined. Okay, mahalo.
Other question? Not, thank you very much, both of you. Justin, instead of saying old, you should say experienced. Just took that personally. No, I didn't.
Why? Sorry.
But anyway, thanks to both of you. Thanks to Greg for the support that he gives to both of you. And we'll try to do this on a regular basis with the two of them, just like Laura was asking, we'll try to get in a kind of a regular rhythm in terms of having reports from both of these groups. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
With this, we're going to move into executive session. The two items to discuss in executive session, and I'm going to take them in this order, is because as part of the executive session, we're going to have Greg set a foundation to discuss the commercial tour operator license. And we're talking more about process for this for this commercial tour operator license and the legal considerations surrounding that. And then the second item that we'll take up after that is what we talked about earlier, the executive director recruiting efforts. So with that, I would ask for a motion pursuant to the language that's included in our agenda for us to go into executive session.
We'll move.
Second.
Second, I'm sorry, I thought I did. Okay, all those in favor, say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Not, we'll go into executive session. Initially with Greg as part of the executive session dealing with commercial tour operator licenses.
Chair, as that's being done, I'm going to switch to another device because the one I'm on is about to lose power and I don't have access to charging. Thanks.
So we're not going to move to another room. Is that bueno? We're just going to do it like this, or are we moving to another room, or how's that working?
Oh, I definitely have to move it to another room, otherwise it's gonna be live and recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, so give me just a second. I'm assigning everybody right now.
Okay, thanks.